You know what drives a lot of people nuts? Closing costs. Closing costs. That's what we're going to talk about today. Hi everybody, my name is Jeremy Rickard. I am the broker of Excellecore Real Estate right here in sunny Central Florida. We don't want you making any decisions based on fear. We want to get you as educated as possible. And I want to be your realtor if you're going to move to the Central Florida area. So let's start talking about closing costs just a little bit. I mean, look here, we got deed recordings and appraisal fees and escrows and taxes and surveys and insurance and credit reports, and the list goes on and on and on. And it's all on top of what you already have to put down. And so I can just hear the air leaving the person's lungs like a deflated balloon because it's just extra money to close this real estate deal. But here's the thing. You don't have to come up with your own closing costs. You can work it into the deal. And I'm going to show you a scenario today that shows how that takes place. But I also want you to be educated on what that actually means for how much you pay over the course of a loan. So let's get started and let's look at an example. So we're going to talk about the loan today, and we're going to assume just a couple things. We're going to assume that it's an FHA loan, and if you have not looked at our loan video yet about FHA conventional VA loans, I'll put a link down in the description for that video. Go check that one out. But we're going to assume this example to be an FHA loan where you're putting 3.5% down and at an interest rate of 4% over the course of 30 years. And then lastly, our closing costs are going to be estimated at $7,000 for this example. So let's assume for a second that you get a seller to agree to a $250,000 sales price, but you're having the seller pay your $7,000 in closing costs. You can see your down payment here at $8,750, making your loan $241,250. Now, let's assume for a second that you decide to pay your $7,000 in closing costs, so you offer the seller $7,000 less, $243,000. The seller technically experiences the same thing. A $243,000 offer here, a $243,000 offer here. Now, as a side note, I do want to point this out. It's actually better for the seller to take this offer with you paying your closing cost because on a lower sales price, all the things that are based on a percentage, he now has to pay lower amounts because it's a lower sales price. So let's go back to our example. $243,000 sales price and you're paying your $7,000 in closing costs. Makes your down payment $8,505 and then your loan balance will be $234,495. So over the course of 30 years, in the first example, you would pay $414,635. In the second example, you would pay $403,025. Now, I talk about it as a 30-year term because I have to actually ask you, how long are you going to keep your house? 5 years? 10 years? There's very few folks that keep their house for 30 years anymore, so I do understand in this example, you have to ask yourself, how long am I going to actually keep it? Well, the difference between these two numbers is $11,610. So if you have the seller pay the closing costs over here and you paid on the loan for 30 years, not only do you pay your $7,000 back, but you pay an additional $4,610 as well. So in order to not have to pay your closing costs up front, it will cost you more money in the long run. And again, if you keep the loan for 30 years. If you don't keep the loan for 30 years, you won't necessarily have to pay that amount of money back, but you are technically financing your closing costs in this example. Again, I'm not trying to say which way is better or worse necessarily. I'm just trying to give you the full picture so that you know you don't have to come up with the liquid money or the liquid cash to make a deal work. You just have to understand that technically you are financing your closing costs because the seller could actually accept a less offer and it'd even be better for the seller to do so. So I hope that gave you some clear understanding of closing costs and maybe help take just a little bit of the fear away of having to have that kind of money down, because we don't want you making decisions on fear. We want to get you as educated as possible. And again, I'm hoping I'm being a good guide. If you do like these videos, give me a thumbs up. I'd appreciate it if you'd like, share, and subscribe. It would really help us out. And remember, as always, excellence is at the core of who we are. We'll see you guys again next time.